Hello, I'm Matthew Nelson, and welcome to my Masterclass on building sensual intelligence. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about the frame of Brave Space overall and how sensual intelligence fits in that frame, and then we'll go into the practice after that. So it'll be about 15 minutes here to give you a frame. And you can listen to this, while walking, driving, whatever. Once you get to the practice, I would recommend full focus on the practice. Brave Space overall is a somatic framework for building authenticity, belonging, and your vitality, your sense of aliveness, the life force flowing through you. And it's a frame for that in your own life, and it's also a frame for how do we meet each other in that space? How do we communally create our own belonging together, right? How do we belong in our bodies? How do we belong together? I actually have 10 principles of Brave Space, but I'm not going to go into all 10 in this little video. What I'm going to do is give you the first 2 in the frame of what's the process look like to bring yourself more alive by attention to your body. The first principle in Brave Space is somatic research, and that is the basis for building your sensual intelligence. Now, what is sensual intelligence? Sensual intelligence is the ability to feel, right? Sensual, to sense, to be in our senses. And so what's sensual has an inherent intelligence to it that we've tended to discount in our culture. We think intelligence is our ability to think. But even in our language, we talk about things making sense. Well, that's not an accident. It makes sense because it's something we can actually feel. When even a math problem, if you it starts to make sense, there's a landing into the experience of, oh, now I get it. 2 and 2 is 4. We start to feel at home in a bit of knowledge. We start to be able to feel into it. This is the activation of our senses. So we are sensual beings. We're always connected with the world around us. We're always connected with each other from the place of sensing and feeling. And most of that for us is unconscious, especially in our culture. Now, it's great that a lot of the body's unconscious and a lot of the things around our senses are unconscious, or we'd have too much to track. But as we want to get better with it, to increase our abilities and to make the most of our ability to feel and allow that to guide us in our lives, so we're not second guessing everything and getting anxious and unable to interact with others because we can't feel ourselves. To navigate those kinds of difficulties, we want to become conscious of our bodies. Now, one of the challenges there is self-consciousness and self-awareness that we treat like they're radically different things. Oh, I want to be self-aware, but I don't want to be self-conscious because that's about judgment. Well, they're the same source. They kind of mean the same thing, right? They're different aspects of it. So we have to ask, what do I do with my judgment of myself, my self-consciousness that might stall me and stop me? We build sensual intelligence. We build the ability to feel intelligently. In order to navigate our self-consciousness, we need even more to be able to feel, and then to learn methods for dealing with judgment that comes up, and we're going to talk about that. So the first piece of building sensual intelligence is treating the body like an experiment. We're going to do science from the inside of our experience. Typically, science comes from the outside and measures, right? It's objective. And that's wonderful when it comes to making airplanes. We make reliable airplanes because we've measured things and we've decided how to universalize that knowledge, right? To say, oh, this is what reliably happens. That works so well from the outside in navigating especially objects. It doesn't work when it comes to navigating your own life force, because your life force is coming through And it's a subjective experience. It's experienced from the inside. And we can look at the body from the outside. I mean, sometimes that's very useful too. But if we're categorically throwing out all the information that we get from the inside, then we've lost an incredible amount of information that can support us. And I can't know what you're feeling, and you can't know what I'm feeling. Only I can experience my life force and my body from the inside, and only you can experience yours. This is so key. And our culture has categorically thrown that out and said, well, it's subjective, so it's not important. It's so important if you want to learn to interact with your own being. And to me, this is a spiritual concept. Like, spirit is all that's larger than my sense of identity and my lifetime, right? So dealing with whatever we want to call divinity, whatever we want to say is larger than just this embodied animal self, then to tune into that, we need to be able to tune into this embodied animal self. We are that, and that is how spirit's flowing through. Now, you can meet this to all sorts of other spiritual viewpoints. It doesn't need to be the only viewpoint, but there is a way that we can learn to read our bodies the way we would read a text like the Torah, the Quran, the Bible, that if we want to look at the divine in the body, we have to be able to feel, because that's where we get our information from. To do this, the field of somatics is made up of movement and awareness. We're always moving, and we're always able to be aware of what's happening. Our breath is movement, right? Even our thoughts on some level are a form of movement. And it doesn't mean it's all voluntary. Like, you're breathing right now whether you're trying to or not. The breath is an amazing place to meet this, though, because we can also participate in our breath. Take a deep breath in, and there you go. You just participated in your breath. Now, you breathe out, whether or not you think about it. So there's this funny line between what's conscious and what's unconscious, and that's the nature of the body. When we bring attention to the body and start interacting with the movement, with the awareness, then we participate in our larger sense of being, right? And that's a very potent place to interact with our life force. So that's what we're doing here. That is the fundamental basis of somatic research and building our sensual intelligence. I want to talk about a piece that comes in, and that is our relationship with our sexuality. That the sensual and the sexual are related. You can't really have a reasonable sexual experience without having some level of sensual experience, being connected with your senses. Even if it's just being attracted to a partner, that's a sensory experience. And we also can't throw the sexual out of the sensual and expect that to work, because our sexuality is part of our feeling experience of our body. I mean, it's so powerful that that's how we're here, right? You are here because your parents were sexual. So this force can become really confusing, because it's like, well, I can't bring that energy to everyone and everything, can I? Like, that's not safe. That's not invited. We get to learn how to acknowledge and meet our own sexuality without projecting that on everyone around us or expecting people to meet it, and yet allowing that it can be part of our experience of our body. It just simply is part of the experience of our body. And this has so much charge in our culture because we bring a lot of shame to our bodies, and we bring a lot of shame to our sexuality. So the second principle in Brave Space is de-shaming. And to de-shame isn't to just try to make it go away, right? You can't just decide not to be self-conscious. You can't just decide to stop judging. You can't just decide to no longer be ashamed of something. Instead, we have to actually ask what's right about shame. Like, if I'm ashamed of being selfish, well, what's right about that is that it's a reminder to care about others, right? That shame is serving a function. But then I want to be able to find myself. The two come together. When we work with shame, we can't just gloss over it. We actually have to go deep and catch what's under it. And that's a process. But one of the most powerful pieces of that process is having conscious containers, places where we can actually speak about it, actually consciously feel it, and do that in community. And that's the third pillar of Brave Space, which is communal practice. So a practice allows us to come to things intentionally again and again. And a communal practice allows us to relate with each other, and that helps us to move that shame, right? Helps us to open up possibility, name the shame, find out what it's serving, and then we can often start to let it go. But we need each other for that. That's not something that you can do just on your own, and often not even just with one person. We need community for that. We're actually communal beings. And we don't get a lot of that in our culture, right? We get it with school, but school's so objective most of the time. We're not going to school to feel. That's what Brave Space is. We're going to school to feel. That's what Brave Space is built around. And the fourth pillar, the fourth kind of part of the process is as we do that, and we do it repeatedly, but even just doing it once, it starts to shift who we are so that we start to kind of carry the light. We start to be the presence and joy to awaken others around us. Because people get a permission. Once you can carry a certain kind of confidence in your field, once you've de-shamed yourself and gotten to know your own sensuality and can trust it, right? Then it's easy to give others that permission. And it's not something you do, you can do it formally, like teaching, for example, and holding group fields, but you can also do it just by being you. So you know that person who walks into a room and you're like, oh my gosh, I just feel good around this person. That's what I'm talking about. That's an embodied quality. It can happen before someone even says anything. That's when we've worked through a lot of these layers and we're more authentically ourselves. That includes other people. That happens by being with other people. Our authenticity is a discovery. I can't tell you the authentic thing I'm going to do tomorrow. That'd be ridiculous. Wouldn't be authentic. So, the four pillars of Brave Space, like the process, the map of the process, is we build our sensual intelligence. We engage with our judgment and shame of self and others. And then we do that in a communal practice. We learn to come and go from that practice kind of all the time. And that helps us to essentially carry Brave Space for others, to help others have the permission to be more themselves because we've found that in ourselves. That's why I do this work. So this first stage of building sensual intelligence is what I'm going to take you into in this next practice. And I have a week-long class about it that's called Body Language that can help you take the next step. And then I also teach a longer online class that's 10 weeks long on building sensual intelligence, where we go deeper and deeper. There's one more piece that I want to share, and that is how powerful touch is. I'm a body worker, so I use touch to teach bodies how to feel places that might have gotten forgotten. You know, there's this thing called sensory motor amnesia where we forget how to feel something and it locks up and doesn't move. And we call that aging, right? When something doesn't move anymore, it gets stuck and damaged. It actually doesn't have to be that way. So touch is a really potent way in, and just notice if there's fears coming up for you about touch. It's very normal. We're really afraid of touch in our culture. So a potent piece to track as we go into this practice, and also something I want you to know is available. And we don't just rush into touch. We create the conditions where it's safe enough to step into that vulnerability and be able to navigate into boundaries, to choose where to be in relationship to each other. That's where brave space goes as we get a little more advanced. Let's begin. For this practice, I would like for you to be able to focus fully and bring yourself fully present. Now, if you're like, I'm a no to that, I want to listen to the thing, but I'm going to be walking. Great. I just ask that if you are walking, driving, things where your safety is involved, that you don't give your full attention to this practice. That will take away from your experience as far as I'm concerned. But you have full permission, because I'll be encouraging you to come inward. If you're driving, that's simply not safe, right? You may be able to track 2 states at once. It's a fairly advanced thing to do that. So I just want to speak to that and ask you to please bring your full attention to this if you can. If at any point you feel overwhelmed by what's happening here, I encourage you to clap your hands. The sound of that can actually kind of pull you out. Get a drink of water, stand up and walk around, stomp your feet, go outside. These things will reset your nervous system. It'll bring you out of whatever kind of state of consciousness might feel like too much. That said, probably won't be the case that it feels like too much. But sometimes if there's a certain kind of trauma that you've experienced that's gotten stuck in a certain way, then the ask to go inward, if you follow it, may bring you to some places you're not used to. And so I want you to know you can bring yourself out as needed. Yeah. Here we go. Find a place to sit. I'm seated on the ground. I'm sitting cross-legged on a cushion. You can sit in a chair for this. If you like, you can try laying down, but I don't think it'll be as effective. You won't be able to do a lot of the things that I say. And this is pretty simple. You ready? Begin by closing your eyes, and you can just bring your attention into the space of your body. So your body takes up space, right? If we filled up a bathtub with water and had you get in it, the water could go over the edge, right, if it was full, because you take up space and that displaces the water. So bring your attention to the space inside your body. Now, one great way to do this, and this may have already come up for you, is to become aware of your breath. Oh, that made me yawn. Breath is movement in the torso. We literally get bigger and smaller. Again, if you got in a bathtub and you took a big breath in, then you could watch the water level go up just a little bit because you get bigger. And then as you breathe out, you get a little smaller. Just knowing that, right? That's objective information. It's about what's measurable, right? That's measurable. Can you feel that happening from the inside? And you might take your breath a little bigger than usual. You might push your breath out so you're a little smaller than usual. Can you feel your body getting bigger and smaller? Sounds are welcome. So, if the answer is no, I can't feel it, fine. That's normal, actually. And notice if you can feel, what do you feel? And as I bring your attention a little more specific, it's possible things will come up that you hadn't noticed yet. The first question would be where do you feel your breath, if you can feel it? And if you can't feel it, then I'd suggest that you start with your chest and the sides of your ribs, into your armpits. Are there any feelings there as you breathe? There are some forms of meditation that track the air right under the nostrils because that is a feeling related to breathing. what I want you to track as much as possible is the sensations in your torso. But if you're not getting that, then take a moment and feel, can you feel the air through your nostrils? Now, as you track your breath, can you follow that downward? And here's something that you can probably feel. And I don't know, because I can't tell what you feel, but feel for this. That is, bring your attention to your body with a curiosity, right? Somatic research, we're going to do an experiment. And that curiosity is, can you feel the support underneath you? So I'm sitting on a cushion. I can feel my pelvis, my butt, on the cushion. How do I feel it? I do a little experiment of rocking my weight forward and back. So give that a shot. Rock yourself just a little forward and back and see if that brings more sensation, more awareness to your pelvis supported, your hips supported, your butt supported as you sit. If you're laying down, you can do this with your whole back body. So rocking your weight, moving, creates an experience. And then you take in that experience, right? You sense it. And so this is an experiment. And we gather that data. You can feel, consciously feel. We're moving. Why? We're moving to feel, to build our sensual intelligence. Now, this might be old hat to you, or maybe you've never done this before. But now I'm going to ask, can you see about breathing down to that support, to that sensation? Can you allow the movement of your breath down all the way there? You can put your hands, if you like, on your lowest low belly. You can just touch the top of your pubic bone with your middle finger and then wide from there. And can you feel your belly move? Now, it's possible you won't be able to feel your belly move with your hands. Some of us are very skilled. We've had a lot of experience breathing into our bellies. Some of us have never practiced that before. Start where you are. It's not bad if you can't do it. In fact, it means you have loads of amazing experiences ahead of you. Because learning to breathe down into your belly and your pelvic floor, which is a very doable task to learn, is one of the most potent tools there is for calming yourself, for coming out of anxiety, for bringing ease to your body. So if you notice that you can't do it, you're actually in a great position to feel way better soon. It's coming. You don't have a ton of work to do to get there. So breathing into the low belly, and then the pelvic floor is the space between your sits bones, the bones you sit on, your pubic bone in the front, and your sacrum in the back. And so you breathe into the space between those where you're meeting the cushion. One thing we can do together to make that easier, and whether you're advanced or a beginner, this still is fun, is breathe real fast for a minute. Take some big, deep, fast breaths. And then push all your breath out and hold your breath at the bottom. And soften in the hold. See how soft can you be? And bring your attention to that place where you're meeting the cushion. And then when you're ready, let the breath come in. Just let it in. You don't have to do anything. And chances are it will come a little lower than otherwise. Your attention there and the waiting for the breath encourages it to come in low. Inspiration. So you can try that on your own, or you can take it again now if you like, as I'm going to move forward, but you can try it. Breathing a lot, breathing out, holding the breath out, pausing, softening, and waiting for the breath. And it'll come in usually pretty low, especially if you send your attention there. Your attention makes such a difference in terms of bringing in new movement. Because to get new movement, you have to be able to feel. This is a little known piece. Sound is great for this. Okay, so breathing with awareness of the base. Now I want you to see, can you let that breath move up? This is a very common kind of yogic technique. It'll be called three-part breath often. Breathe into the lowest low belly, breathe into the base of the thorax, like the diaphragm, and then breathe into the upper chest, three-part. And you bring it up and you bring it down. So let's try that. You're going to just, from the bottom of the exhale, let breath come into the belly. Belly expands. Now, this is hard if you want to show that your belly is small all the time. You actually have to let it expand. Then bring it into the base of your ribs. You can bring your hands to the base of your ribs if you like. Then can you bring it up to the top of the chest? And then as the breath goes out, you can imagine it going down and out, as if you were breathing out through your cushion, through whatever you're sitting on. You can imagine like you're actually pulling the breath in from down there. Now, the way this actually physically works from a measurable, objective standpoint is that the diaphragm, the muscle of breath that's at the base of the ribs, gets pulled down the front of the spine. There's the cura pulls it down, and that draws air in, but it creates movement all the way through the torso. As you breathe out, can you let yourself stay tall? So you can imagine like there's a string at the very top of your head. You can actually tap the top of your head if you like. And then imagine a string going up into the sky. Maybe there's a kite up there, that's flying on that string. And it brings length to the spine. You can drop anchor from the base of your spine. There's actually some little bones called the coccyx that are at the base of the sacrum, the base of your spine. You can just imagine a little weight dropping from there through to the center of the earth. And so we get to live in that vertical if we're sitting. And then the breath gets to run through that whole thing. Now, let's take a moment again to notice the sensation of the breath. With all this imagery, we're using imagery to help, right? Of the string, the kite, the anchor. And we've also got a little bit of anatomy now. You know about the diaphragm. You know that the pelvic floor is the space between the sits bones, the pubic bone, and the sacrum. Now what can you feel? What came in for me was I felt the back of my heart space, like the back of my ribs. Now, my saying that may bring your attention there, and it may come aware for you, or it may be a place that you can't quite localize. Notice what does come in for you. It's also okay if you can't name it. So, being able to name things can be useful, but it's not even the essence of this work. The essence of this work is just to feel it. It's not verbal work. It's sensory. It's sensual. You don't have to be able to tell a good story to be able to feel your body well. Notice what happens in your shoulders and neck. You can notice what happens in your side ribs, the sides of your ribs. It's a place I feel my breath a lot. You might get a stretching sensation on the inhale. And if you don't, doesn't mean you're not doing it right. Just by feeling, you're doing it right. On the exhale, sometimes there's a sense of softness, and notice how your body may want to move with that. It may feel good to stay really tall while softening. It may be that you kind of shorten and slump a little bit, and then the next inhale you get big again. And now I want you to add in moving your body around on the support that you're sitting on. And you can imagine like if there's a kite pulling the top of your head gently, then maybe that kite flies around different directions. And you can imagine how the kite string might wave you can let that wave even work its way into your spine. And so just keep breathing. You can let your eyes move. You certainly don't need to be watching me. Oh, and feel your body moving and breathing. There may be thoughts that come in. Notice that they're not the most important thing going on. You might have some critical thoughts about yourself or about me, or you might think that you're just so great or this video is so great. Cool. Not the most important thing going on. So we just get to notice it and feel your body moving. Feel where you're shifting on the support. And what sensations as you shift and move around can you feel in the volume of your body, the space of your body? You might need to close your eyes to do that. Perfectly fine. Still let your eyes move around even if they're closed. Ah. Sound is so welcome. My body's been yawning this time doing it. Sound is vibration. It actually comes with sensation. Notice that if you make some sound, that you can feel the sound, not just hear it, but you may be able to feel the sound. Just keep listening with your body. In Kiswahili, the word kusikia, it means both to hear and to feel. So when we talk about listening to our body, we mean to feel. To feel our body. It's the language of the body is sensation. Sensation and movement. Now take a moment. Is there anything that's coming up? Are you ashamed of any part? Are you avoiding feeling certain things? You know, oftentimes we'll avoid feeling our genitals because we're not supposed to do that in public, right? You can feel whatever you want. The whole thing is your body. You don't need to be ashamed of it, no matter what its form. But when the shame does come up, if there is shame, then we can ask, oh, what's here in the shame? We don't want to shame the shame, right? It's okay to be ashamed. It happens. Part of being human. Yeah. So now we're going to bring ourselves back. You can bring your attention back to the screen. See me? See my eyes? And then imagine me seeing your eyes, right? I'm looking through space and time here to see you. And that's also part of releasing shame, is let ourselves be seen, to practice. And so go ahead, clap your hands a little bit, shake it out, just to look around, bring yourself into the ability to function in the world, right? You're able to do that. Notice that you can do that. If you would like to know more, here's the next step. Sign up for the Body Language mini-series. It's my signature 1-week dive into this work to build your sensual intelligence, to learn the language of your body, which is movement and sensation, right? This is the language, this is how we listen to our body, this is how our body talks to us. So the Body Language mini-series is a week-long, 15 minutes a day. It doesn't take very long. And then you get a live session with me, group session that I run periodically, and you'll get to sign up for that. There will be a date for it. And if you can't make it, you can get the recording. So that is a lovely way to work with me. I am happy to do a little intro conversation with you. We can talk about what your needs are, so you can book a time to speak, and we can go into a little bit more depth about what your needs are. I do one-on-one work, hands-on, as a body worker. We can get together and work in person. And I throw retreats and do online trainings as well. So I have an online class in sensual intelligence that I run about every quarter. And you can find links for all of those things at bravespaceembodiment.com, and you will see the button below for the body language mini-series and also to book an intro call with me if you like. Okay, it is a joy to share this work with you. I hope that you are feeling a little more in your body after this experience. And you can text me at the number at the top of the website if you're on the website. And let me know your experience. I'm so curious. Thank you so much.